Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon. FowlerGMC.com. Pre-owned and new GMC Sierra trucks and GMC Yukons, all driven by Fowler GMC. Pearl Brandon, FowlerGMC.com. We welcome in Tom Luginbill to the show. Good morning, my man. What's up?
Good morning. How are you, buddy? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm good. Are you in Louisville or Charlotte?
I just got done with Louisville, and then I drove down to see my son practice today before I head home because I won't see him until probably around Christmas time.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're at Eastern Kentucky?
Yeah, yep. Good old Richmond, Kentucky.
Okay, I haven't been there. I was just in Louisville 2 weeks ago. We did an Elijah Craig barrel pick. I'll have to send you some when we get it. And so that was a ton of fun. We went to Bardstown, and, Heaven Hill owns Elijah Craig. Yeah. Here's what's cool, Luginbill, Lugs, because I know you like a good glass of bourbon and a cigar. So, a lot of those distilleries are outside or in Bardstown. And so we went to the Heaven Hill campus, which is incredible. And they have a bar and restaurant on the property. And so I'm with the Elijah Craig guys, and we ate lunch there. And they have these bartenders, and they make amazing craft cocktails with Heaven Hill products. So we had some awesome Elijah Craig fun, drinks, and the food was fabulous. I didn't know that they had that cool of a bar and grill, at the distillery. And we had a good time. I think Lugs may get a bottle of Elijah Craig barrel pick for Christmas from Santa. I'll be Santa.
Send it my way, brother.
Okay, so we were talking about John Gruden and Ed Ogeron and Jimbo Fisher earlier in the show, and all of them want to. So Ed made the comment, Lugs, that he wants to be back in coaching. All three of these guys, as you know, Lugs, have made a fortune. But you grew up. Your dad was a coach, and they talk about how it's Parcells and all these guys have talked about how it's impossible to get rid of the itch, so to speak, regardless of where you are, right? And so Eddie O has been off for a couple of years. He made a lot of money, but you see this all the time in your profession. Once the guy's been the head dog, some guys can make the transition back to a coordinator or even assistant, but it's very difficult. Everything's got to line up once you've run the show to take another job, right, Lugs?
Yeah, you've got to be in sync with the head coach's vision. I think it's imperative that you're at a place where you can have a legitimate chance to play for championships. You don't want to just go someplace where you're flailing in the wind, especially if you're not going to run the program. So, I think you hit the nail on the head. The stars have to align, and it's just got to be the right fit in many, many ways. You said something really interesting in relationship to these guys all being so wealthy right now, and you're right. And my response to that is, why would anybody want to get back into college football? Honestly, like if you're Ed Orgeron, you've coached in the NFL. If you got that itch again, go be a D-line coach in the National Football League.
Right.
Some of these, it's just, but even a guy like Brian Hartson, he doesn't have to work, and now he's Cal's offensive coordinator for Justin Wilcox. So, these guys, it's hard. I used to always say some guys are addicted to drugs, some guys are addicted to alcohol or women, and for these guys, it's football. Like they're addicted to it. They can't live without it. And I think a lot of the older guys, and I really believe this, and I've talked with guys. The older guys think if they retire, they're going to die.
Right.
Like they think that's the end. That is the end, and so they don't want to let it go.
Right. And look, when I know you spent a lot of time with Dan Mullen when he sat out the whatever it was, the 2 years or 3 years, whatever. And you and I have had that conversation. And I told you that Dan came back to Starkville. They recognized the 2014 number one team, he and Dak, last year at the A&M game. And he came up to the box that I happened to be watching the game in, and you could just tell Luke's game day and watching in the stadium where he had won big games those competitive juices got lit and were roll. I could just see it. I'm standing right beside him, and so I wasn't surprised when he took a job. I just think it's hard to. Well, you know the drill. It's hard to go to the house and not get that game day feeling again.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you get it when you walk in. Look, you started at quarterback at Georgia Tech. You were fortunate to start in JUCO and win a national title. And you've been around it with your dad, and you've been with ESPN for 20 years. But you love walking in the stadium, whether you're going to do color analyst or sidelines. There's something about game day walking in the stadium, right?
Yeah, there is. I spent 11 years in the coaching profession prior to joining ESPN, and I had to make a choice. And the choice was either stay in coaching or go down a different avenue that kept me around the game and involved in the game, and then ask myself if that was going to be enough. For me, it was. For some other people, it may not be. I traded instability for stability. I traded time at home, time away from home for time at home. There were just some other priorities, and then the scouting side was enough for me. Because I had an old coach tell me one time, he goes, and I was probably 25 at the time. And this particular coach won 4 national championships at USC. He was Barry Sanders' running backs coach at Detroit. He was the offensive line coach for Don Coryell during the Air Coryell days. So this is an experienced guy. And he said to me, he goes, if you can live without football, go do something else. Because it will bring you to your knees.
Right.
But if you can't live without it, then you need to do it because you won't be happy doing anything else. And it was when he said it to me, and when I had a decision to make, I literally hearkened right back to that statement. And so what I had to do was find the place in the middle, and I was able to. A lot of people aren't.
Yeah. But there is something about building the team, game day, all of that guys can't let. I don't blame Mullen's still young. I don't blame him for jumping back in. Now Eddie O and those, they're not that much old. I mean, if you're taking care of yourself and you're in your early 60s, you can still roll. I mean,
sure.
Pete Carroll's an outlier, but still you can.
But I will say this, though, man, at the collegiate level, it's becoming a young man's game because of all of the things now that you are required to do if you want to have a chance at success that have nothing to do with actually coaching football.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also, and you know this, Luke, I mean, if you hire the right general manager and those type things, they're going to do a lot of heavy lifting for you too, right? As the process unfolds. Fair enough?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But again, too, a lot of that depends on where are you at and what are your resources.
Yeah.
Like
no doubt.
If you're at a middle tier group of 5 school or even a bottom tier Power 4 school, I mean, you talk about swimming upstream. Yeah. I mean, it is a constant battle in every way.
Gruden, Eddie O, and Jimbo Fisher are all interesting to me. To me, Gruden and Jimbo are just about the same guy, except Gruden's good looking, charismatic, super outgoing. But I mean, they're offensive gurus that I think make it too complex, and overdo it, overcoach it, overthink it. Eddie probably, believe it or not, is the guy that just says let it rip, and maybe some things fall into place. But it'd be interesting to see what happens there. All right, I want to talk about Pete Golding. Have you been around Pete Golding at all in the last 10 years or so?
Oh yeah, both at Alabama and Ole Miss.
Okay. He just signed a contract for $2.5 million. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. He's got Mississippi roots through Delta State. He seems happy as all get out under Lane. Lane's letting him run the show on the defensive side of the football. Why has Pete Golding developed into one of the better defensive coordinators in the country, in your opinion, Luke?
Probably because he had the opportunity to work under the best there is, and then take away from all of that and go do it on his own without having the defensive-minded head coach above him. I just think that it's almost like you're in that little cocoon, and then you go to a different destination, and you're allowed to blossom. Not saying that Nick Saban hindered him anyway, but put yourself in that position, right? I mean, you replace Kirby Smart, and your head coach is Nick Saban. That's a tough thing to do for any coach, particularly, though, a younger coach that was coming into his own. And so I think that you draw from your experiences, and then when you have an opportunity to kind of let it fly, and you have an offensive-minded head coach that's a play caller or involved in play calling, he can't be involved defensively to the level that a Nick Saban was.
Right.
And that probably allowed Pete Golding to bloom. If you remember that, those 2 years that he was a defensive coordinator at Alabama, they wanted to run him out of town.
Yeah.
Not because he wasn't a good coach, and they were actually good on defense. They're a top 10 defense. But he wasn't Kirby Smart, and he's not Nick Saban. And the moment you see any type of little crack in the foundation, and you maybe have a bad game, or you do some things defensively that are uncharacteristic to what fans have seen for 15 years, all of a sudden you become the scapegoat immediately.
Right. Well, it worked out. I mean, he basically talked about how he got a little burned out, which happens in Tuscaloosa under Saban. And then it was kind of a nice balance, because Lane works hard and coaches hard, but he also gives them some time. And man, he has developed into a phenomenal defensive coordinator. I think he's worth the $2.5 million. He's a really good recruiter too. You know, he's from South Louisiana, as you know, Lugs, went to Delta State. There's something up in the water in the Mississippi Delta because of all the guys that have gone through that program to go on and coach. It's small college football, but they're tough as hell and have won a ton of games over the last 30-plus years. Could you see Pete Golding? Do you think he's got the stuff to be a head coach at some point, Lugs?
Yes, I do. If he wants to be, I think when you have to be such a detail-oriented guy, and I think he is, especially in today's game with all of the things going on. But I also think he's smart enough to know that you can't take the wrong job.
Right.
Right. You got to. I talk to Dan Hawkins about this all the time when he left Boise State and took the Colorado job. And he's very blunt about it. He's like, I didn't ask the right questions. I made a really bad decision because I took the wrong job.
Wow.
And you go from the penthouse to the outhouse real quick, right? You go from being a guru to an idiot real quick. So you got to make sure that you put yourself in a position, if you're going to take a job, that there's an opportunity to win, opportunity to compete as a championship. There's university alignment from the top down, and that football is a priority. You know, that's one thing. Like, take a look at Tony Elliott. You know, Tony Elliott was the offensive coordinator.
Point. Great example.
Yeah, offensive coordinator at Clemson. Really good coach, good recruiter, great guy. Well, he takes the Virginia job. And, you know, Bronco Mendenhall had, done wonders with that thing, and then he decides to step away. You know, he didn't get fired. He just stepped away.
Right.
And so you take that job, then you have the shooting tragedy, literally right as you take the job. And you're at an academic place where basketball is king, and you can't operate that place like you're at Clemson.
Right.
And it's taken him a little bit to have to work around things that he was accustomed to having right down the hallway. Well, you don't have that there. So I just think you've got to really do your homework on the opportunities that are out there.
Boy, that's a good point. For our listeners, Tony Elliott was co-OC at Clemson on their big run. And Luginbill is close to that staff, Dabo and all those guys that went through, Venables and Elliott. And who's the dude, Lugs, that took the South Florida job that was the other co-OC with Elliott?
Alex Galesh.
Okay, yeah. No, it was another guy, but anyway, his dad's in coaching. But the point is, now you go to Virginia and you're losing, and like Luke said, people don't think you're any good anymore. Like 5 minutes ago you were, now, you know. But to piggyback off what Luke said, Dan Hawkins was like the hottest guy in college football, and he took I think Luginbill nailed it. He took the wrong job.
I mean, he absolutely took the wrong job.
Ugh.
And so, and it can happen. It can happen. And everybody, you know, like I always hear people talk about the Arkansas job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, everybody loves Sam Pittman, but, you know, at the end of the day, that is a really hard job. Not because they don't have resources, not because they're in the SEC. It's a hard job because of who you are having to battle against, and your in-state player pool is virtually zero.
Right.
You don't get to just pluck 15 kids a year out of your own state and then supplement it, you know, from other areas. You have to go into everybody's backyard, everybody else's backyard, to compete for players, and then you've got to compete in the transfer portal. Like that job is not the job it was when Bobby and Houston Nutt were there.
No. Tom Luginbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. You know, it is all about we're talking about Pete Golding, and top 10 defensive coordinator in the country, in my opinion. He's done a great job at Ole Miss. Now Lane's letting him do interviews. I thought the interview he did last month at the Delta State Invitational Golf Tournament was incredible. I mean, he just told you the whole blueprint of Lane's blueprint, how he runs the program. It was amazing. 20 minutes of like super in-depth stuff. He's a South Louisiana guy. We were talking about this yesterday, and Lou's, the Tulane job could open up, and John Summerall is going to be. What do you? I think Summerall is a future star. Do you think that, Tom?
Yeah, no, I think he's really, really good, and I'm assuming you're going down the path of, you know, if Kentucky makes a move on Mark Stoops, which I don't think they'll do because the money that they're going to owe him is ridiculous. But that's the job that Summerall would probably pursue.
Right. But I think he would take Arkansas. I mean, if Sam gets run this year, which I think he will, and I don't want him to, but I think he will, he could be in play there, though. Because, I mean, if somebody offers you $6 million, dude.
Yeah. See, now we're having a different conversation, right? Because now you're talking about life-altering wealth,
right?
Generational wealth that's different. If we're talking about, you know, Group of Five to Power Five, Group of Five to established SEC or Big Ten, or, you know, potentially a top ACC job, that's life-altering money. That's an entirely different conversation.
Right. And it's like Barry Odom. I don't know if he may have taken the wrong job, but $5 million a year, knowing that he's going to get $20 million. I mean, would I have gone to Purdue after winning 11 games at UNLV? Probably not. But I also understand, take the bag and be able, and know if it doesn't work out, you got beach money. Okay, so if Tulane opens, Pete Golding or Ed Ogeron could be in the mix for that job. If Summerall goes, as Luke said, if Summerall goes to Arkansas, possibly Kentucky, but they'll have to fork over like $45 million to get rid of Stoops. And if Lebby doesn't win 5 games, that could open. Now, Summerall wanted the Mississippi State job 2 years ago, and it didn't work out. Which takes me to another coach. I want to know if you've run into this guy. This will be interesting. As many people as you've been around, but you may not have crossed paths with this dude. Mike McIntyre is a defensive analyst at Mississippi State. He's coached under
former head coach of Colorado and San Jose State.
Yeah, coached under Cut, Parcells. All right, so you know Mike McIntyre.
Yeah.
This guy may be the guy that helps save Lebby's job, because there's talk that he's really going to be a big part of running the defense. What do you think about Mike McIntyre as a coach, Luke?
Well, it's funny you asked that question, because you talk about a guy that won at 2 places where it's almost impossible to win.
Exactly.
San Jose State and Colorado. I mean, holy smokes, you know. And, you know, he'd probably tell you the same thing Dan Hawkins said when he left San Jose State. He probably said, you know what? Probably shouldn't have taken the Colorado job, right? And it didn't work out. But I think he's a really, really good football coach. He's been around a lot of good people. And hopefully he can help on that side of the football now with the new rules and how you're allowed to be involved in terms of coaching and on the field stuff. That's important.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at Joe Judge. I mean, I talked to Joe, and he's not considered one of the 10 headsets, but he's on the sideline coaching the quarterbacks and talking to Lane, and that's totally legal now. So Mike McIntyre, and look, for our listeners, for Mississippi State fans, he went to Colorado and was coach of the year in the Pac-12 and won 10 games, which, as Luke knows and most everybody listening, it's difficult to win there. And
Yeah.
so he may have he coached under Parcells, Cutcliffe's defensive coordinator for a couple of years at Duke, coached at Ole Miss with Cut when Eli was there, and so on. This guy's got some coaching chops, so he may be able to. Would you say that would you say John Summerall could be the hottest name by November 1? Because
if he has another big year, absolutely.
Okay.
I think if he has another big year, him, Spencer Danielson at Boise State has done an unbelievable job, although he just signed a huge extension, got a big raise, and deservedly so. Okay. But listen, the way I look at a lot of this stuff with some of these guys that are having what I call having to do it the hard way, because when you're at those jobs, you know, in today's football, you know that you're going to recruit players that other people don't want, right? Then you're going to put all your heart and soul and work into developing them. And then how are you supposed to keep them?
Right.
That is a vicious cycle.
It is.
Each and every year, right? So, and that can wear on you, man. That can grind on you. And
hell yeah.
So when you get hot at a place like that,
you got to go.
To deal with that grind, you got to go.
Yep.
And if you can do it with those resources, you should be able to do it with somebody else's much improved resources.
Absolutely. Who's the Syracuse coach? I know people like him. He was with Kirby.
Fran Brown.
Okay.
Yeah. Fran did he was an assistant at Georgia under Kirby. Really good recruiter. You know, their schedule this year is brutal.
Oh.
Like, I don't think you're going to see a 10-win Syracuse again. Not this year.
Okay.
I think they'll take a bit of a step back, but he's really good.
That was awesome. Tom Luginbill, QB1, National College Football Analyst with ESPN, joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Hey, can't wait for next week and week 1, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good week, buddy.
Sounds good, buddy. You too. See ya.
Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds Show. How about that on Pete Golding and Mike McIntyre? That's two damn good defensive coaches. Golding with the $2.5 million salary now, and well-deserved. Mike McIntyre, can he save this thing in Starkville and get that defense up and running? They finished 114th last year out of 20 teams. Can they get in the 80s? Can McIntyre drive them to where they are like 81st, 83rd in red zone scoring efficiency and get to 5 wins? The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Southern Ag Credit, financing life outside the city limits. SouthernAgCredit.com right there in Ridgeland.